if you are not constantly reevaluating the mistakes that you're making, you will continue to make the same mistakes, have the same problems over and over year after year. You're going to be frustrated. Why isn't this working for me? Yo, Coach T, why can't I get any clients? Why can't I attract any attention? Why can't I've been trying to figure out for the last few years how to put together a curriculum and a program and get leads, and I hear it all over and over and over again. And the reason I can say that is because I've been in a place where I've been trying to figure out, well, how do I actually build this business? What do I really need to do? And have I really been learning from my mistakes? Because I met a lady a few months ago who's been literally doing this business for 20 years. And she was making the same mistakes every single year. She was like, Coach, I'm trying to make my first $5,000 a month. And after 20 years, I didn't even know this was in existence 20 years ago. And she's still trying to make her first $5,000. And that's not a comparison, but it goes to show just because you're in this for a long time doesn't mean you've been making progress and building this for a long time. So that is the key. What is good, my people? I'm looking at my IG fam. What's popping? Good to see y'all in the building. Debater, author, Muffy, BMW, I see you. What's good, y'all? So if you just jumped on, again, how we're gonna do this is we're gonna go through. I'm just gonna rattle off some of my top mistakes. If you hit any bars or insights, drop it below. If you have any questions, drop it below. And then I'm gonna offer you a resource to be able to give you help with your business. And then we'll go into some Q&A for a few minutes. All right. So that's what we focused on today. Now, just some of the things that I'm gonna tell you why this is important. Over the years, I realized I've been in this business and in this industry for the last 8 years. What I've learned is that if you're not very meticulous and intentional about overcoming the mistakes that you've been making in the past, you will be either in the same spot or more than likely your results will get worse. And I can say that because I've been in places where I thought I can just do the same activities over and over and over and I would get the same result. I would tend to get the same result, or I would just be doing things that I thought was correct, but it wasn't necessarily best business practice. And I found it hard for me to make things happen. So when I first started this industry, I was working with college students and I was helping them graduate college and get into their career field. Now, I went to a HBCU. Shout out to everybody who went to HBCU. Shout out to everybody who went to a college. And I noticed that I did my undergrad in computer engineering and I ended up graduating and going into cybersecurity, making great money doing cybersecurity, like making good money. Now, I ended up getting to a place where a lot of my fraternity brothers, shout out to the Sigmas, right? I had a lot of my fraternity bros and my friends who they didn't necessarily graduate college, or they graduated, but they didn't get into the career field that they wanted to get into. So outside of just making the money, I'm like, yo, you spend tens of thousands of dollars on college, you need to at least get into your career field. So that is where my journey started in this industry, trying to figure it out. But the challenge was I had no idea how to actually run the business. I'm good at communicating with people. I love helping people. I love giving good advice. I love the smile that comes to their face. I love when they come back to me with results, but I didn't understand the business. So when I started doing this, I was literally all over the place trying to do speaking, coaching. I was just trying to help people any way that I could. But I was never able to quite get over the hump. I was never really able to make a few $1,000s. I made a couple $100s here or there because I made a course, I made a book, and I was making pennies. And what really changed the game for me, and this is really kind of going into my initial mistake, is one of the first mistakes is I didn't seek out a blueprint, right? The name of my program, I have a program that's called the PCS certification program. PCS stands for the playbook, the coaching and speaking. I did not have a playbook when I first started. I was just out here doing whatever I thought I should do. But if I had to reverse the hands of time, I would have seeked somebody who had the playbook, at least a better playbook than I had, because obviously it wasn't working. I was spinning in circles for like 3 years, 2-3 years, trying to just figure this whole thing out until I got tired of it. And I said, let me actually start investing in myself and really learning what I need to do. So once I started, so that was really my first mistake. I should have invested way earlier so I can at least get a blueprint. Now, once I actually got the blueprint and I started learning and I started getting coaches, my confidence started going up. And by the way, if you If you feeling this, like, give this some likes, because this is super key. So my confidence started going up. And I'm like, okay, I'm in it, I'm learning. Okay, I see how this works. I see how this email marketing thing works. I see how this social media marketing thing works. I'm seeing how to put together a curriculum and a program, and I started learning how these different things worked. Now, one of the things though that I was shy about, and it took me a little minute, was I was afraid of judgment. And that was another mistake I made. I was afraid of the judgment of other people. I was afraid what people will say, what people will think of me. I was afraid that somebody was going to bring something up from my past. Like, where I grew up, I told you, I am from the south side of the Bronx, New York, grew up in the hood. I did everything, from hanging out on the corners, robbing people, stealing. I was drinking 40s at like the age 14, 15. You know what I mean? And so just to kind of let you know, like, the environment I was around, I was hanging around people, so just drug dealers. I was hanging around people who are in gangs all day. My block was just, it was crazy. You know what I'm saying? It was crazy. So for me, for me to just even come out of that mindset was just a different situation. So when I started really getting into this, I'm like, yo, I know people from, people who know me from the hood that's following me and watching me. And I know also people from college, because remember, when I started this was after college. Like, when I first started helping college students, this was years after college, right? So in college, I was not doing this. I was not coaching. There was no Coach T, right? It was none of that. I was the guy that had the crib across the street. I knew a lot of people, and I'm like, yo, bring the girls to my house. And I always had bottles on deck, right? It was always a good time. And so that was Coach T post, right? Post this coaching business, right? Post wanted to help and change the lives of millions of people online. That's post that, right? And so that was literally all I knew and what I had. But my challenge is that I wasn't really confident in putting myself out there. So I would upload videos. So anybody who uploaded YouTube videos, you can upload it as unlisted. Unlisted is essentially you don't have to show it. It's not public, right? So I will only upload my videos as unlisted, and I had a share link, and I would just use this share link and say, let me send this to a couple people. Let me send this to this person. Let me send it. Let me get it. I want to send it to a few people to see what they think. And the problem was that I wasn't growing or getting the exposure fast enough, because I was heavily dependent on what other people would say about me, instead of putting out my true gift and really helping people in from what I know and from my knowledge. Does that make sense? So that was another mistake that I made. And by the way, if you're experiencing any of these mistakes, give this some likes, give this some love, share this out. If you know anybody who's going through any of these things that I'm mentioning right now, especially if they're a coach or there's some type of trainer, or if they're some type of speaker, send this in, hit the little arrow, the little airplane arrow all the way to the right of the bottom of your screen, and share this out, because this is key. And these are things that really helped me out a lot. So that was another mistake that I made. So then I started getting a little bit more confident. I started putting out my videos. But another mistake that I made was I'm peeping everybody online, right? And I'm like, okay, let me see who's the men and women out here that's killing it. So I'm peeping. And then I start seeing this guy named Eric Thomas. He keep popping up. E.T. the hip hop preacher keeps popping up on my timeline. And I'm watching his YouTube videos. I was watching his Thank God It Was Mondays, and following him and just learning. And I was learning so much from him that I actually started stealing his mannerisms. And the same thing, I thought I had to be, yo, you gotta and I thought that's how I had to be. And it wasn't until I had a coach who checked me one day. He was like, yo, I came out to an event. He was like, yo, Terrell, stop performing. I'm looking at him like, what are you talking about? He said, you gotta stop performing. I can tell that's not you. I'm like, yo, this is me. This is my content. I'm sharing it. But it took me a while to realize that. It took me months after he said that to really realize, what does he mean? He keep telling me to stop performing. And what I realized was that I wasn't being my true, authentic self. Everybody put be yourself in the chat. So I wasn't being my true, authentic self. So I was coming across thinking, not even really not knowing it, I was coming across almost like E.T., because I thought that that's who I had to be in order to be successful. And I didn't really know that, oh, I got my own identity. I have my own way of expressing myself. I'm actually more silly. I'm enthusiastic, but I'm not necessarily as aggressive in terms of how I train and how I teach. And as I started to step into my own self and being more comfortable with expressing myself and my thoughts and my ideas and how I can help people, more people started to be attracted to me, which was crazy.